Last night, I received a forbidden file that claimed to contain the lost tape of a cursed film pulled from theaters after causing panic attacks in several packed cinemas. Although I hesitated to open it, curiosity ultimately overcame instinct, because everyone I'd read swore that anyone who saw the first scene would never sleep the same again, and I needed to see if a story could truly destroy the mind in such a brutal and realistic way. The file was named Frame_0, a title so simple it seemed to mock the fear it promised. But when I played it, I discovered there was no music or logos, only a deep heartbeat mixed with an almost human murmur, as if someone were whispering behind my neck, telling me not to move. And that whisper felt so real that I had to turn away, afraid of seeing a face shrouded in darkness, perched on my shoulder. The story began with a teenage girl live streaming from her bedroom, claiming that the lost movie had arrived at her house in a package with no return address. An unknown viewer had told her that if she watched it all the way through, she could reveal a secret the world had been trying to hide for decades. Confident it was a viral challenge, she sat down in front of the camera, unaware of the hell she was about to unleash. The video showed the girl starting to watch the movie in front of a live chat window where hundreds of users were excitedly commenting. The lights in her room flickered as if the electrical current were trying to escape, and a long shadow began to appear right behind her, even though no one else was in the room. This caused the chat to explode with alarm messages, which she ignored with nervous laughter. That shadow moved at an impossible angle, curving as if gravity didn't exist, and yet it seemed to mimic the girl's every breath, as if inhaling the air she exhaled, slowly absorbing her warmth with inhuman patience, while the chat begged it to stop before the thing finished materializing. But she, stubborn, kept staring at the screen, not noticing that her reflection was no longer mimicking her. The most terrifying thing was that the reflection began to move its mouth, forming words that didn't match those of the real girl, uttering an almost audible, "I saw you," even though the movie had no sound. And as the image distorted, the shadow behind her began to lean in to observe her from an impossible angle, like a predator sniffing its prey before slowly devouring it with a hunger that felt very conscious. As the chat began to dwindle, a user wrote that they recognized the scene because it was part of the banned footage screened only once at an international film festival, where several viewers swore they saw hands emerge from within the screen, trying to touch their faces. Although everyone thought it was a special effect, no one could explain why 3 people ended up fainting, trembling with terror. The stream continued, showing the girl's face growing ever paler, as if the film were draining her blood, while her reflection on the screen became sharper and more hostile, staring at her with eyes that weren't her own eyes, devoid of light and humanity, seemingly emerging from an abyss where time didn't exist. And each time she blinked, something in the image appeared to move a little further toward the camera. The conversation froze when the girl said she could already hear the movie playing inside her head, not from the speakers, but from something closer, something pressed against her ear, repeating that she shouldn't look back for any reason, because whatever was behind her was already awake and didn't like its prey reacting prematurely. Her voice began to crack as a tear fell without her noticing. A sharp noise shook her room, like a blow against the wall, followed by a visible breath that didn't come from the girl, but from the shadow that had already taken on a human form, albeit a deformed one, with limbs longer than normal and a neck twisted at an angle that no bone could withstand without shattering into 1,000 pieces. And yet it remained upright, advancing toward her with a tortuous slowness that seemed to relish her growing panic. The screen of the file I was watching began to flicker eerily, as if the footage wanted to escape the player's boundaries. For a second I thought my own reflection had vanished from the monitor, but it was just a creepy flicker. I saw something leaning against the wall behind me, mirroring the pose of the shadow in the video, which forced me to stop it, even though part of me wanted to continue just to confirm the impossible. When I resumed playback, the girl was no longer in her chair. All I could hear were her rapid breathing as the camera focused on the floor from an odd angle, as if she had fallen or someone had dragged her out of frame. Several viewers began returning to the chat, drawn by distant screens filtering in from the other side of the room, as if they were coming from beneath the floor, not from above. The reflection on the screen remained motionless, staring at us with a wide, unnatural smile, stretched too far to the sides as if the skin had been forced to tear to allow that mouth to grow larger than it should. And although the girl wasn't facing the camera, her reflection was still there, breathing, blinking, and whispering words that seemed like an ancient language, chilling the blood even without understanding it. One viewer claimed to recognize that smile as the same one displayed by the faceless actor, a recurring figure in cursed recordings linked to inexplicable disappearances in abandoned movie theaters, where people who entered to record viral videos would reappear days later with no memories and no shadows, as if something within those places had claimed them to complete a ritual whose meaning no one has yet been able to decipher. In the transmission, the reflection slowly raised a hand, but what was disturbing was that the skin moved as if it were alive inside, tensing erratically, revealing brief glimpses of tiny faces trapped beneath the flesh, trying unsuccessfully to scream. As one of them managed to open a microscopic mouth, the camera captured the reflection striking the glass from within, leaving blackened finger marks that shouldn't be there. The girl appeared crawling from the darkness of the hallway, crying uncontrollably and staring blankly, as if she had seen something her brain couldn't process without shattering. As she screamed that the film was alive and followed her even with her eyes closed, her reflection began to mimic her with a 1-second delay, but with more abrupt movements, like a puppet whose strings were being pulled by invisible, malevolent hands. The worst came when the girl said she could no longer feel her shadow, that it had detached from her feet and was now walking on its own in the room, brushing against her ankles with cold fingers that didn't belong to any human. The camera captured the shadow moving behind her in the shape of a broken spiral that seemed to expand each time the girl screamed, feeding off her voice as if each note of terror made it stronger and stronger. A sound like a bone tearing filled the speakers, and the image began to distort so violently that I thought my monitor was about to explode, but it was all part of the footage. The shadow finally took on a solid form, revealing a completely black body, devoid of texture, eyes, or mouth, yet still conveying the feeling that it was smiling from behind that total darkness that absorbed the light, like a hole devouring everything in its path. The viewers began disappearing from the chat one by one, not disconnected but deleted, as if their names were being digitally ripped away, erased from the record, while the reflection moved so close to the camera that the screen seemed about to shatter. Each time her face filled the frame, static appeared, showing different, unknown people, all with the same empty stare the girl had at that moment, captured live. The girl began repeating that she couldn't close her eyes, that if she did, the film would continue playing on its own inside her head, showing scenes that no one in the world should see, scenes where she herself appeared in places she had never visited but recognized from old nightmares, as if the file were connected to something deeper and older than any image filmed by human cameras, something that wanted to be remembered. The reflection began to slowly turn its neck, further and further, until it completed a full rotation without breaking, and as it did, Its smile stretched until it completely covered its cheeks, while its black eyes began to bleed a thick liquid that dripped towards the camera, leaving stains that looked like small hands trying to escape from within the footage, as if there were dozens of trapped souls begging to be freed from that dark prison. The girl screamed that she could no longer move, that the shadow was holding her feet, and that she felt fingers crawling up her legs like roots searching for the light, and when she tried to get up, she was thrown against the wall with brutal force, causing an absolute silence in the chat, while her reflection celebrated with a slow, distorted applause, as if enjoying the suffering she was experiencing in real time in front of thousands of people unable to help her. The transmission ended abruptly when the shadow completely embraced the girl's body, covering her in a black shroud that absorbed every inch of skin until it erased her form from the frame, leaving only the empty room and the camera focused on the spot where she had been, while her reflection remained on the screen, motionless, breathing, as if waiting for someone else to play the file so it could continue its ritual without interruption. The file I had received ended with a note that said the film was never destroyed, that it continues to copy itself onto random devices, choosing those who are most susceptible to watching it completely, and that every time someone falls into the temptation to play it, a part of the reflection manages to escape a little further to this side, seeking to replace the shadow of whoever watches it, until it can finally take their place completely. As I finish telling you this, I've noticed that my shadow hasn't been matching my movements for a few minutes now. And although I try to convince myself that it's just fatigue or my imagination, I can see it laughing softly when I'm not looking directly at the floor, as if it's celebrating knowing that I've already opened the file and can't undo what it saw, because the film, this time, seems to have chosen me as its next reflection to cross into the real world. If you've made it this far, then you already know that there are some things that are better left unseen. But if you want to keep opening doors that no one else dares to touch, subscribe to the channel. There's always a story waiting for you, whispering your name. Susurros del Mundo Oscuro. Dark World Whispers.